how you doing? We are on Chinese landscapes. If you are my art student, we have started with your title page. So let's see what my title page looks like. And that's where you get your brainstorm of your ideas. You're getting all your ideas, your research from the internet on your Chinese landscapes title page. If you have a theme or a verse or a poem, you could add that, and you put down your ideas. I'm thinking of adding an animal maybe in the foreground. Okay, I want to remind you that we are going through the design process. All designers, including architects, go through the design process. This is when my students collaborated and made posters about the stages of the design process. What one group came up with. Thank you to Colin, Antonio, and Alejandro for this awesome poster. The design process always has the same steps that you do. So we've done your ideas, your brainstorm page. We're now going to develop by research, not only on fonts and colors, but now we're collecting information, and our information is, dun dun, this is what to type in. You're going to type in the Lang Shining in Qing Dynasty, 1644 to 1911, to do your artist study page. Instead of just looking at an artist, all right, this is my photography. We're going to look at a ancient China group, a whole group of a dynasty, it's called. Okay, so just so you know why we're doing this, I'm going to flip to some of my student examples of their final and point out that they have a stamp, which is called a chop, and a Bible verse or a poem on the side. So these are some of my students, how they added personal expression, their own ideas, and that's how we're going to go about it. And there's someone who really liked horses like I do. So just so you know what we're looking at. For the big picture, why we're doing this, why we're researching and learning from famous artists. And here we go. Let's start looking on the internet. You're doing research on Lang Shining Qing Dynasty, 1644 to 1911. Then you know you got it. This source is if anyone likes, yep, fish. If you want to add a fish on yours, this is probably the artist study page you would do, is focus on this one. Anyone interested in that? If so, what you do is type in the words I showed you on all I did was on a Google search. I typed in those words, Shining in Qing Dynasty, 1644 to 1911, and all of these popped up. So you click on one, find one you like. This is the one I'm actually going to do the artist study page on, because I really like how you can see in the background some hills, some background, middle ground, and foreground. And that's for the A in art, is you have to have those aspects, including tone. All right, let's look at the hound. Anybody likes dogs? Check this one out. See how they have a foreground, some fine details, some texture on their tree. All right, so look at how they've added their chop with their words, where they add it in the scene as well, because this is all a part of you developing as an artist, seeing what you like, identifying with something, and then adding your own personal story, your personal identity. So this shows you could just do a Google search and find lots of images, find one you guys like. All right, why do I have my horse here? My photography is what I'm coaching you guys to do, is get something to avoid plagiarism. This is a photograph I took of a horse. So you're going to have your own photography as a primary source to show that something in your scene you didn't copy from the internet, from another artist, but it's from your own photography, to show that you have thought of it on your own. So let's get started. What I did is I started with a Sharpie marker so I could watercolor right over it, and then some black. That horse photo I looked at of mine, to add my horse in the foreground, since we're going to do an artist study page, we're also adding your personal expression, something to make it of personal to you. So I'm going to look at those mountains in the background, and I'm going to start with black. Now I don't know if we got coming up next is where we're going to have Chinese paintbrush techniques learned together, but we're going to start with black as your background color, and we're going to do it really traditional like they do in ancient China. They start with their black, and then on top of that they add some other color, where I want you to be quite classical in the approach, where you're going to maybe add one other color and not go crazy with lots of colors, a full palette, but work with monochromatic, which is one color and different tones of that color. If you guys want to use more than one color, I'm going to have you get permission to make sure it is monochromatic, colors close to one another on the color wheel. Alright, I hope you guys noticed that I'm simply adding water to black, and by doing so I'm getting lots of different tones. And I'm going to dunk in water again, and this is really cool how they did this in ancient China. You're going to get the water and you're going to go back and forth to make some cloudy see-through areas with the black. And so all I did was add water, and now I'm going to spread it around to make it that mystical, cloudy type look. And in my background, where it seems further, I'm going to use water. And if I get the paint when it's still wet, I can make it a little bit fuzzy, out of focus back there, and especially want to do so, remember I'm dunking in water, with the words. I wanted to be able to show that I have done everything you need on an artist study page. What's the first thing I'm looking for? You guys who've had me know what we need on an artist study page? Yep, to avoid plagiarism you need a website. So my website is what I just showed you. I found on my research, ChinaOnlineMuseum.com. You can even use Wikipedia in art. We're not as strict as English class. You get to pick what site you use. Alright, my 3 facts are ancient China, 1644 to 1911. Leng Shining Dynasty is another fact. And another fact is traditional art showing culture. Okay? And this is something I want you guys to think of, as how can you tie in a message, a meaning with your art or culture. This quarter is where you're going to get to do so. So think about it. Think about what photography you have to show personal expression, a culture you identify with. And obviously I'm teaching you how to show the culture of China. Alright, now you can see I've used pink for my letters, and here are my observations. The landscapes of China depict scenic nature with texture and tone. That inspires me. So the idea of us doing artist study pages is to show inspiration, to be inspired by other artists, and to learn from their techniques. And that's how you develop and get better and better as an artist. So I'm just going to do a light wash over my opinion, but I'm not going to cover it like some of my students have, a little too dark for me to read the words, right? Because that's a part of me grading your artist study page. So I'm just going to keep adding water. Now, I don't know if you noticed, I have only used black, right? So this scene so far is with one color that I keep dunking into, and this is how we're going to work with these traditional Chinese landscapes on our next page, where we do landscape brush techniques, is where we're going to start with black, and we're going to only use black with lots of water to show texture next. And to show texture, I could show you that's coming up. We're going to get the end of our brush. If you have a Chinese landscape brush, you press the end, or any brush, until you kind of fray the end. Kind of goes against what you'd normally do, and then the end gets all frayed. And that, my friends, is how you can add some texture. So it looks like rocks, a little bumpier. And that's what we're going to be working on next. It's also called, by Claude Monet, and that's a Monet, the water lilies, the dab technique, when you dab on the flowers on his famous poppies. So I'll probably dab on some flowers there. Alright, so we're just using black, then you're going to get to pick one color. I wanted to show you with an example how to pick one color to make it quite traditional, to make things pop with monochromatic black and white. So I'm going to add some clouds before I go to the one color. Are you staying with me? If I'm going too fast, you can always stop the video and catch up and then hit play again. Alright, keep going into the water. I'm going to hit my one color as purple. Now you notice I added pink in my lettering, so I'm going to add purple with pink. And those colors are close to one another on a color wheel, and those are called analogous colors. And that's an analogous color scheme, colors close to one another, which depict a peaceful feeling. So I'm mixing up my watercolors so that I could get my brush and dab on flowers. And it kind of still matches my my titles. Remember, this is the dab technique when you're just dabbing on. Now these flowers, if they're gonna hit my black where it's still wet, they're gonna spread out. So I'm trying to avoid that, but just go very carefully. Little tips, but then you kind of get going really fast to dab them on there. Okay, so think about what your color scheme is. On my flowers a little closer, I'm gonna still dab them on, make them look like fuzzy, like the Horton Hears a Who flowers. And I'm not gonna be able to see it on my black very much, I know that, but I'm just going for it so we can finish. All right, next thing we're gonna learn together with our painting techniques is how to do a waterfall. So I'm gonna do one right here. I'm gonna go straight down and have some mist below. And then I'm gonna do some reflection on the water by adding more water and spreading it out to add different tones with the black now that we added our one color, trying not to mix it in with the flowers. Okay, and add a little bit in the sky. That's where I can go over to now. What I'm going to show you over here is if you have an idea of what you would like your symbol, which we're going to make a chop, which is a stamp out of styrofoam. So if you have like a styrofoam takeout thing or a cup, save it, because at the end of this final piece, we're going to make a chop, a little stamp, and put it in the corner. See that little thing in the corner there? And then we're going to do your verse with your theme or a poem in the corner. And I already know mine is going to be hope. I'm thinking of doing a symbol of the Holy Spirit, a peace dove with a cross and a heart inside. I'm thinking of this. So I'm trying it out on these pages as we are doing development and trials. And thy kingdom come, Matthew 6:10 is what I'm thinking about adding. So I'm going to do a really light cloud over that. And that, my friends, is how to do your artist study page. What I'm going to do to finish it up is what our famous artists did in ancient China, the dynasty. Can you tell what they did with their horses? Yeah, they added fine details and color. So I'm going to get out my colored pencils next and add some color to my horse in the foreground. So tune in next time for your next lesson. I'll have this one complete when we work with your Chinese landscape paintbrush techniques with texture, waterfalls, mist, and dabbing on some flowers. That's all coming up. Way to go on the design process, my friends. Hopefully you're having fun with this. Have a great day. Peace out.